Hey everyone, Chris Hodge here doing a quick snip from the Bet Big Talk Loud podcast. And what are we all talking about? The Notre Dame snub. What was it? I've done podcasts that said I believe Miami should have gotten in over Notre Dame based on the head-to-head performance. And you guys could agree and disagree with that. But here's what I'm getting at, and I'm going to play this whole video for you. I'm going to show you guys a couple things here. Notre Dame, I want you to stay with this now, was never getting in to the CFP. The problem is the CFP committee led them on, led their fans on. That is the problem. But if you break down what I'm about to say factually, I'm going to give it all to you. I'm going to give you what Hunter Yurachek said yesterday. I'm going to give you the brackets. I want you to factually understand this. Notre Dame was never getting into the CFP. I'm going to show you why. First things first, we're going to show you what Hunter Yurachek said yesterday when he came on and he did the video, the interview with ESPN. We're going to show that video now, and then I'm going to come back and I'm going to go over what he said.
The first move in that was we felt like the way BYU performed in their championship game, a second loss to Texas Tech in a similar fashion, was worthy of Miami moving ahead of them in the rankings. And once we moved Miami ahead of BYU, then we had that side-by-side comparison that everybody had been hungering for with Notre Dame and Miami. And you look at those two teams on paper, and they're almost equal in their schedule strength, their common opponents, the results against their common opponents. But the one metric we had to fall back on, again, was the head-to-head. I charged the committee members to go back and watch that game again, the Miami-Notre Dame game, because it was so far back. And we got some interesting debate from our coaches on what that game looked like as we watched it. And with that in mind, we gave Miami the nod over Notre Dame into that 10 spot.
Okay. So now you heard what he said yesterday, right? The BYU loss to Texas Tech in the fashion that they lost dropped them below Miami, which means they went to Miami and Notre Dame and compared those two teams. And they went to the head-to-head. Okay, great. So what you're saying is, what happens if BYU would have beat Texas Tech in the Big 12 title game? Well, both teams would have gotten in. They weren't going to hold it against Texas Tech, and BYU would have clinched as the AQ, the automatic qualifier. They would have gotten in. So you have, here is the CFP bracket that we're going with. That is the original bracket from yesterday. Here's the CFP bracket, okay? You see how the teams are ranked. Texas Tech is number 4. Great. Now let's look at the bracket had BYU had beaten Texas Tech. Okay, so you see the bracket now. You would have had probably BYU, probably would have been obviously ranked higher than Texas Tech. I put Texas Tech at number 10. I would have dropped them down. BYU would have been above them. BYU would have had one loss. Texas Tech would have had 2, and BYU would have the Big 12 championship. Where do you see Notre Dame here? Notre Dame's not here. BYU winning knocked Miami out. That's who they knocked out. Okay? So this is what the bracket would have looked like had BYU beaten Texas Tech. Where do you see Notre Dame there? Okay, now let's take it another step further. Let's say Virginia won the ACC. Well, who did that knock out? That didn't knock out Miami or Notre Dame. That would have knocked out James Madison. James Madison would not have gotten in had Virginia won the ACC. Okay? Duke winning the ACC allowed James Madison to get in because of a stupid rule. A stupid rule that the CFP and college football or whoever did not think was ever going to come to fruition because they always thought their top 4 in the Power 4 conference championships would have been ranked higher than James Madison. So Virginia, if they would have won, had nothing to do with Miami or Notre Dame. It had to do with knocking James Madison out. So now, we've gone over, if BYU wins, Notre Dame's out anyway. If Virginia wins and BYU wins, Notre Dame is out anyway. Okay? Now, what they told you yesterday was in the manner that BYU lost dropped them below Miami, and then they compared Miami and Notre Dame. That's what I started off first thing in this video. Well, if that's the case, if you were only going to compare Miami and Notre Dame anyway, why the fuck was Notre Dame ever ranked ahead of Miami? Why? They had 6 weeks ago, they lost to Miami head-to-head. Yesterday, they lost to Miami head-to-head. Okay? The last 6 or 7 weeks, they've done this CFP nonsense, which I told you was going to be bullshit. I told you this guy was going to come on and give you a bullshit excuse. Okay? They always had the Miami victory head-to-head. They had it since week 2. They had it since week 2. Yet, they put Notre Dame ahead of them in every CFP ranking, and that is where they went wrong. The only way, if you take what this guy said, the only way Notre Dame could have gotten into the CFP, the only way was if BYU played a close game against Texas Tech and you had Miami, BYU, and Notre Dame. That was it. That was the only way that Notre Dame could have gotten in. No other way could Notre Dame have gotten in. They're just not looking at it the right way. I put up the bracket that we're going with. I put up the bracket had BYU won, and I could put up the bracket had Virginia won. You're just switching out James Madison. You're putting Virginia in, and Tulane is number 12, and Virginia is like number 11. That's it. That's it. In no other way could Notre Dame have gotten in. So they lied to you. They misled you for 6 weeks. They kept the Notre Dame fans happy. That's what they did. Just look at what the guy said. Look at the brackets we put up for you here. And just go with Miami beat Notre Dame head-to-head, which I railed about for the last 5 weeks. I don't think Notre Dame should have ever been ahead of Miami. They have basically the same strength of schedule. They have basically the same in terms of schedule ranking. But Miami had the head-to-head. What are you doing there? So you were bamboozled. Really, that's what you were. For 6 weeks, the CFP, their committee, they bamboozled Notre Dame. That's what they did. And that's why the Notre Dame athletic director comes in and says, this is a farce. Well, he's right. It is a farce. They fucked it up from Jump Street. Notre Dame should have never been ahead of Miami. If they would have just done it correctly and put Miami ahead of Notre Dame, we're never having this issue. But again, there is the only thing based on what was said and what was done. The only way Notre Dame could have got into the CFP, again, based on what was said, was if BYU played a close game against Texas Tech. BYU gets blown out against Texas Tech. They drop below to Miami, and, well, we have the Miami and Notre Dame now. Let's look at them together. First of all, before I get done with this video, why did you go to the last week to compare Notre Dame and Miami? They both had 2 losses forever since the CFP, since these Tuesday night bullshit things started. Both teams had 2 losses. Miami beat them head-to-head. So, and one more thing about Notre Dame. You know, I was going to do a separate video about that, but I'll do this right now. You have no one to blame but yourself for this year. You played 6 games against ACC competition. You went 5-1 in those 6 games. You want to keep this independence bullshit? You played Purdue, who went winless in Big Ten play. You played Arkansas, who went winless in SEC play. Just get rid of those 2 teams, play 2 ACC teams, beat them, play in the ACC title game, and win the goddamn thing. And you're in. Just join the ACC in football. Hell, you're in it in basketball. And then what does Notre Dame do? They want to take their ball and run home and not play in a bowl game. So, hey, look, we put the video up of Hunter Yurachek. We put the bracket up of what it actually is versus what it would have been if BYU had won. You see it right here on the video. Notre Dame was never, ever getting into this thing. You just got bamboozled. That's it. Nothing more to say.